I'm so glad you found the place. Welcome. Gather around the campfire. Today we're going to talk about the history of Stanton and how we got here. If you would believe it, there was once a time when less than 100 members of the community were here in this whole system. There was absolutely so few people that you saw every day. I just cannot believe where we've come. And honestly, it was through the hard work of many people to make it happen. And many people that helped break a few things.
Welcome to the ASOP Vehicle Retrieval System. Welcome to the ASOP Vehicle Retrieval System. Vehicle selected. Stand by. Vehicle selected. Stand by.
Well, I'm sorry, that's just how the story goes. The Aesops failed, the global chat didn't work, party markers disappeared. But people didn't care. That's the point. The point is testing. The point is that it's not perfect. But for every hurdle you suffer, every crash that we experienced, there was good experiences. One of the most favorite sounds of mine is just like today as it was back then. It's when someone turns their headlight off and on. That clicking noise is just home. That's what it is to me. Just as much as my own ship is my home and my own hangar is my home. It is something special. It's that rare air. People that have been in the trenches with you and understand what you're going through. And honestly, that's what to me the community is. The game is. And when you have a large group of people, it's worth the problems. It's worth the headaches. It's worth the problems that people even make up just for clicks or something else. Sometimes I wonder why they do such things. Why do they jump on a test server and then complain about these things? But we have to look at why it had to be tested in the first place. And that is a great question that leads us into our main discussion today. The kind of service we have now and went through all these testings that I'm talking about were different than the ones that started in the past. You see, there is a root server that runs the entire solar system of Stanton. And then each planet has its own system that it's running through. And then even the moons were, at least at first in this arrangement, were static. And it is exciting to say that as server development changed, these leaves, as they're called, the smaller parts of the solar system, can add or take away from the server. So, as a server joins, it can grab a leaf and take part and take the load off of the parent server, the root server, that runs this whole system. So, some of our best tests in the early days of testing meshing were in the 500 range, and it showed that each planet had its own server to operate on. And while, yes, the moons were static, etc., etc., the code that was operating was still showing that people could move amongst the different parts of what made up the multiple game servers. When we talk about large amounts of players, there's the in game services impact, but more importantly, the server itself has to stay up and alive. And then there was the naysayers and the inquisitive, who talked about the level of traffic that they created on their group of servers. CIG staff were very adamant that it was sustainable and at levels that were manageable, particularly on the link layers discussion. Additionally, they provided a discussion on the provision system that talked of when the root server crashes, or if it crashes, there are other servers that put out the flag, so to speak, and request a new server to get people back online and replicating everything needed across the other leaves of this large shard system. I think many just could not get around that this was testing, but it was well thought out and calculated testing. So as folks came used to this higher level of Stanton, where there was many players running around, they suddenly realized that this wasn't going to go away. It was just going to get larger and larger and larger, and the tests were going to be more demanding on the player base. But the community rose up to this, and that's why we're all here today. I think it's important to remember that sometimes it is bigger than one of us. It's for everyone. And I would say that to make the Stanton we know today as good as it is, it's critical to follow where the leaves fell. And it is something that I was proud to be a part of. I think where there's a lot of opportunities for finding issues, optimizing the system, and creating a better verse for everyone is worth suffering through. It's worth the problems. And it is a great, enjoyable experience. And I encourage anyone with the patience to step up. And I hope to see you out there. Well, I think we about ran out of firewood. So let's just enjoy this little bit left. And I hope you all have a good evening. Take care.